Hey all, Dorian here, and I'm going to respond to a message that I actually got from a customer, and it's the same as I see on Reddit today, which is your clean data policy just a bunch of admin overhead, which is pretty funny. It's the message starts with every few months, management sends out a mass email demanding that we clean up our CRM data or risk inaccurate reporting. We're told to verify phone numbers, standardize fields, and merge duplicates, but honestly, it feels like pure overhead is taking up selling time. The data gets dirty again immediately because of invalidated form submissions and sloppy manual entry. And in here, it asks, what automated or structural policies have you put in place to actually prevent data? So I'm just going to riff on this because I should probably turn this into a blog post, and maybe I will, but I'm just going to riff on this for now. And just so people can get an idea. So what I'm assuming here is this is sales and marketing data. And this is where I'm just going to mention a few things. One, probably 10 to 20% of your data every year is what goes, what's the word? I'm stale, but it's invalid. And here's why. Um, when I was in college 25 years ago, I remember one of the classes I took was an HR class, and a professor that led the class was actually worked in HR for several years and did some consulting for human resources for small businesses. And this gentleman actually mentioned a stat that I never forgot. It said the average person changes jobs every 3 to 5 years, and then every three of those they change careers, which would mean if it's a sales job, every 3 to 4 years they change jobs, and then every three of those, like every 10 years, they may change careers and go, I'm out of sales, I'm in doing something else now. Which means if you have a database of 1,000 people, 300 of those are going to go stale or be invalid. Now, that was just the stat back then. And just think about that in a timely manner. So let's say every year, 10 to 20% of those, which means your database as of today is automatically going stale. That's one of those things. Now, the second part of that would be COVID. So since COVID hit, I don't think anybody that I know is still working for the same company post-COVID than pre-COVID. Maybe there's a handful of people, but if you look on people's LinkedIn, COVID was the great disruptor for jobs. So if you have a database that predates COVID, starts 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, the very low likelihood the person that was working for the company pre-COVID is still there. And you can go to LinkedIn and check this just, anecdotally. Now, of course, there's executives as well, and there's owners as well. But almost everybody I know, 80% of the people I personally know, you go to the LinkedIn profile pre-COVID, they were doing something different, either doing something different or working someplace different. So then, well, what do you do? So if you have that, this is where data tools come in. Because if you have a Zoom Info back in the day, like a Dun& Bradstreet, or we use AI for this now, is where you can actually run a research on these companies previous to reaching out and said, here's my database, go to LinkedIn, see if this person still works, and if they don't, change it. And it's worth it, because if you have 5 or 6 salespeople and you have LinkedIn Sales Navigator and you integrate between the two, what happens to your database? It automatically gets updated with the right people and says, oh, these people no longer work there. And then you're not marketing to the wrong people. You don't have a bunch of blocks and spams, which wreaks havoc on your marketing. That's one of those things I would say you may want to look at. And if you have a sales team of any volume, if they're spending 20, 30, 40% of their time updating or just going to LinkedIn to validate people still work there, so you definitely want to either look at a tool to do this, or you can reach out to us. We can help you with some of the AI tools that we're building that just goes out, takes the company data with the prompt, does research, comes back and says valid, not valid. And then on top of that, that's probably 20% of the businesses, depending on the industry, they're actually out of business. If there's a restaurant that was open pre-COVID, heaven help us, right? There are certain businesses that are consumer facing that COVID absolutely destroyed. And if you're selling to any one of those brick and mortar, local centric, retail style businesses, service-based businesses, very low likelihood those businesses are still around in the same regard, and their contact information is still there. So that's another thing. Now, let me get into what this user is talking about here, which is cleaning up your data. So imagine now you have data post-COVID, and you're like, hey, I just saw this yesterday where a client gave me a spreadsheet to import into their CRM, into Salesforce. And in that spreadsheet, all the states, they had, states spelled out, they had states abbreviated, they had states the first 4 characters, and they serve US, Mexico, and Canada, which means their Canada information had CA and had California in it. It was a mess. And they're like, and I said, do you want me just to import this straight or clean it up? And they go, what do you mean by clean it up? And I just sorted the state column in their in their spreadsheet, and they were like, "Oh, we didn't notice this before. This is why our sales team can never follow up on leads, adequately because our routing is off." I'm like, "Well, one, yes, it is because your data." So this is where it comes to data policies. That one, you can standardize things like your states. Should it be in 2 letters or should it be spelled out? Do you work in international? If you don't work in international, your phone number should have the same format. It should have three character area code, 3-character prefix, 4-character at the end, no extensions. Those are the kind of things that you should have standard. Your email addresses should have an @ symbol. If it doesn't have an @ symbol, cannot move forward, right? So these are things that you should, when you're collecting data, you can put these validations in so it never hits your CRM. These are just the small little things, but you'll be surprised it wreaks havoc. As a matter of fact, I was working in another client of mine doing marketing automation, and we start to warm up their domain, and their domains are bouncing. And I said, "Hey, you have an enormous amount of emails that are bouncing. Are you making sure?" They're like, "No, this is the best database we have. This is our current clients." And I just I ran a report of the emails just to look in. They had Gnail, not Gmail, but Gnail on several of them. They had Yahoo, not Yahoo, on some of these that were personal. They had no @ symbols for the email. If I would say a good handful, I just eyeballed, and when we sorted, it got worse. They had .con, C-O-N, instead of .com, and I'm thinking, and most of the forms, they're marketing to mobile devices, so people are kind of fat-fingered and figuring these things out. There were a lot of phone numbers that were not adequate, and so I just looked at it and I said, "You cannot continue to send emails and warm up your domain if this is the data." And I'm like, "Okay, what do we do?" I'm like, "You can't send 50, 60, 70,000 emails if you're sending it in this manner. This is indicative of the overall data." So tools can help you here. This is another part of kind of governance. I mentioned one other thing when it comes to, obviously, the data in your system, the data coming into your system. And then the other part of this would be documentation, the data that you currently have that you want to keep. I'm assuming this user is not talking about data that's like sales data or customer support cases. But I will say one of the things that oftentimes gets overlooked is a data policy. So one of the clients that I work with is a healthcare company. Well, I should say I have several. At some point in time, you don't want all of the healthcare data accessible to the front desk. You want that front desk person to say, "I can pull up records for the last 3 years, but we've archived the other ones." One, it helps you with risk because you don't want everybody at your practice or everybody at your company accessing the whole history of your company data. Because one, they can export it, they can kill your company. And I've seen that before. They export all your customers, your client files. They go to the competitor and say, "Here's an export of everything my competitor company has ever done. You can market against it. Everything we've ever charged, everything we've ever worked with, the good clients, the bad clients." I've seen that. It's definitely killed companies. So you want some kind of an archival policy, a backup and restore policy. I've also seen where, CEO and the head of marketing get into a shouting match on Thursday. Friday, the marketing person calls off. Monday, they resign. And guess what? The marketing person had admin access to all of the campaigns and marketing emails, and they go in and just destroy, wreak havoc on all the marketing campaigns and just delete stuff and put the company in a turmoil, and he or she is gone. And you cannot restore that information unless you have a tool that does that. And most of the companies that I work with, if you're either storing PII, personally identifying information, you need some kind of a backup, restore, and masking policy. If you're in the financial services space, same thing. Like I go to the bank can say, well, one, online, I can only download I think 1 year of statements. I have to go into the branch to get 3 years, and the branch will tell me, "I can't get 3 years. I can only, I have to put in a request to get more." I'm like, that's a security policy. Somebody's pretty smart there. They're making sure that they just can't export all this data and walk away with it because it is a liability. So I know not the point of this conversation, but something that you all should think about. And I apologize, this video is like 9 minutes. But just think about when it comes to cleaning data, there are a lot of things to keep track of here. But just start to think through your data. Is it dirty? How are you keeping it continually clean? If you're evolving on people to do that, which they're going to do some of that anyway, and all those things. But I would tell you that these are where tools come in. And if your team is spending an enormous amount of time, you can use some of the AI tools we use internally just to enrich data, to confirm data. We have a bunch of data. Just to give you an example, we have a list of 30,000 businesses we're targeting in a major city. Name, address, phone number, some websites, some not. We created a prompt. We programmatically do this inside of our Salesforce org today, where it goes out, searches for the business, and the prompt comes back and says, here's a website. Someone would have to do that 30,000 times, or we'd have to pay tens of thousands of dollars to a data tool. It's now built into a prompt. And then we take that and run it again inside of a prompt and go, find the industry. So we're just literally taking raw data, name, address, phone number, then we get the website, then we get the industry, then we can use that information to go to the internet and find contacts. We take all that information, find email addresses. We've just enriched a lot of raw data without people touching it. So just think through some of those things that you can do. And of course, you can go out and buy different data tools and you get intent and enrich it with, previous data. But just to give you an idea, if any of what I mentioned here rings true for you and your company, reach out. I can give you some ideas of like giving you here and say, for your use case, this is what I would do. And this is the case where tooling helps you, and people's intuition and thought and history will help you as well. So hopefully these tools can help, and good luck. We'll talk to you soon.